Hello, everyone, to our listeners. This is our adulting series, CultivAsian podcast. Today, we have a special guest,
Thank you.
J.R. Quo, with us. Can you tell a little bit about where you are from, who you're representing, and what you do?
Yeah. So my name J.R. Guo. So today I'm representing this amazing nonprofit organization called 1000 Cranes for Recovery. I am their director, so I'm run programs for this nonprofit organization, and the mission is to advocate mental health awareness for Asian Americans within Los Angeles County, well, just in California, and hopefully nationally. And our specific focus is using arts and culture to as tools and means to talk about mental health
Mm-hmm.
with our people.
That's amazing. So, a little bit of introduction about us as well. So, my name is Lilian. I'm the director of outreach for the CultivAsian. I'm also the project lead for this podcast specifically. And then this is our member Anthony. Tell us
Yeah.
yourself.
Oh, do you want to talk about your
Oh, the
uh
adulting series first.
or I don't know, should we say our year major stuff like that?
Yeah, we could. Well, I'm a third year psychology major. I'm a transfer student.
Okay. Hi, I'm Anthony. I'm a fourth year right now at UCLA. And I'm a neuroscience major.
Yes, we're super excited about to talk to you today. So let's just jump right in. So you mentioned that you're representing 1,000 cranes, and then you also like in our private conversation you mentioned that there's this special funding for harm reduction.
Yes.
So for us, like for me, I don't know. I know Anthony, you said you took a class about it.
Yeah, I actually took a class last quarter on substance abuse.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in this
Very
topic. So
cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
excited to talk about it.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so Anthony knows a little bit, but I don't know anything, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of viewers probably also never really heard of
Mhm.
this. So how would you explain the whole aim of the program to,
Okay.
our college viewers or anybody who like hasn't heard about it?
Yes, yeah. Thank you for that question. And before I answer that question, I just want to set it up, the background information. So 1000 Cranes for Recovery receive a technical is a called stipend
Mhm.
directly from SAMHSA, a federal agency. And tell the truth, I don't remember the whole name.
Oh,
The
I just searched it out. I think it's substance abuse, mental health. What's the
association.
mental health something association?
Yeah, there's always that is always screws me up. But SAMHSA, amazing. I know have worked with SAMHSA on and off for the last 15 years. Amazing organization, amazing federal agency that does amazing work for when it comes to substance usage
Mhm.
and mental health for the community. So
Plug the info later down there.
yes, please, please.
Yes.
So yeah, so they don't get mad at me. So, so, and they have this specific one program called Communities Talk.
Mhm.
Community talk.
Yeah, so it started off 10 years ago. Oh, I don't know how. The first time I started working with them, it's called Underage Drinking. And
Mm-hmm.
then they rebranded called, right now it's called Communities Talk.
I
Mhm.
The
see.
idea is that how can communities come together to talk about substance usage challenge that we have?
Mhm.
Because we know that the medical model which is important and good, but it's a little top-down model, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to substance usage, people don't like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
That's one. Second is that when it comes to substance usage, so and then also based on different data studies show that so when communities, when people come together, have a candid, honest, genuine conversation about substance usage
Mm-hmm.
and other mental health challenges, people do respond better.
Mm.
So that's why. And then so almost every year, well, for a number of years now, I would get these little stipend
Mhm.
and do this type of community talk with community. So last year was with students at University of Colorado.
Oh.
And then there's one year was with students at University of New Hampshire. So it just
Uh-huh.
depends on who I've been in contact with.
Did you travel around?
So yes, so depends. So sometimes we would do something like virtually.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would actually give an actual workshop. about
Oh,
substance usage and harm reduction.
wow.
That's interesting. Well, so this is your first time at UCLA, then
Yes.
to the bucket list.
Okay.
Exactly. I was joking around with Lilian that like I just feel very privileged, very lucky that I have spoken out about a little bit over 50 different universities, been
Yes, I
on
remember.
50 different universities, but somehow UCLA is one of those universities that always slip away. So I have been on this campus before a long, long, long time, but this is my first time, quote unquote, officially speaking on
Yeah,
UCLA.
well, I mean, we're privileged to have
Yeah,
you, and
Thank
also
you.
like
honored.
that this is also like a nice like first experience.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people right now on campus, so I feel like it's more serene. That's
Yes.
nice. But yeah, so thank you so much for giving us like that brief introduction about harm reduction. And I feel like for me, I know personally I don't really use a lot of substance, but I hear a lot
Yeah.
about like the horror stories or like good or bad stories. Like, how does that apply? Like, how can that apply to like us college students,
Yes.
right? And a little bit about like just what the details entail of how harm reduction like is.
Yes. Those are great questions. So a little bit background, right? When it comes to substance usage in this country, it's always historically and conventionally, it all has been focusing on abstinence.
Yes.
No
War on
alcohol.
drugs.
Yeah, the war, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Legally, system wise, mentality wise, mindset wise, there's always no, 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 no,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I should just make this official statement. If you're underage, under 21, please don't drink.
It's
Please don't use drugs.
legal.
Yes, this is my official statement. Yes, please don't do any of that. That being said,
Now that's
that being
proven.
said, going back to your first question,
Mhm.
we know that college students, whether they are legal or not, over like 21, over or underage, we know that
We do
they
drink.
they have been drinking, they were drinking, and they will drink. Not only they will drink, they will use different substances,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
All
Uh,
kinds.
Okay.
yes, yes. Do I support this? No. Again, officially, no
Mhm.
drinking. Dry campus and so yeah, yeah, of course. But we know that behind the scene, they will drink. They are drinking. So when it comes to harm reduction, the idea is that okay, we know that students, specifically college students, or even high school students,
Some, yes.
somehow they will start trying different substances like marijuana, cannabis,
hmm
maybe prescription pills,
Vape,
alcohol,
yeah.
vape,
Mm-hmm.
nicotine, alcohol. So when you think about it, especially with college students, is that the question is how can we phrase this question that okay, yes, legally our stand is no drinking, no substance, but we know that they're gonna do it.
hmm
So what can we do within the legal framework
hmm
to make sure that if they're going to try these substances, how can they do it safely?
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay,
see.
the last thing we want is OD, overdose,
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
No, we
right?
don't want that.
It actually recently happened on campus.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
really? Wow.
One person. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the dorms.
In the dorm
Yeah.
areas. I
Yes.
heard about it. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not close, but like, I have friends who are
In
close to
that
that
dorm.
area. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the past 5, 10, 15 years, how often we hear hazing in
Oh,
Greek life,
oh yeah.
right? Hazing, which result in over drinking,
Oof.
and then die. There's
hmm
Asian American college students underage die from ODs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So the question. So this is kind of the foundation, the core foundation principle of harm reduction is that we know people are going to use substances.
hmm
How can we support them in a way so when they are using these different substances they can do it more safely,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yes, there are AA programs for
Anonymous.
yes anonymous, which is amazing, great programs that I truly believe that we need to give them more funding, right? We need
Mm-hmm.
more funding. That being said, and then yes, there are certain people struggle with substance usage challenge. they do need to be abstinent. That's the only way for them to get their life back.
Mhm.
But what we know also is that a lot of people, they don't want to stop drinking. They don't want to stop doing drugs. They just want to learn how to manage,
Under control.
how to control,
Mm-hmm.
how to use it safely.
Mhm.
Right. So this is the approach
Mm-hmm.
that a newer approach that okay, we know these whether they are underage or adults, right? That yes, the society, the law, whatever can tell them that don't drink, don't drink, don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
But deep inside them, they want to drink.
Mhm.
It's hard to
Right.
control everyone, right?
Yes.
Only tell them no. Of course, that's the easiest, most direct way to
Yeah.
just ban everything. I think
Yes.
that's the same. I learned this from my psychology class as well,
Mhm.
where they were talking about whether it's sex education or
Ex-
it's like it's substance
yes.
use, the same thing. Like teaching people how to manage, how to use the tools, give them the tools to cope and
Yes.
learn how to navigate is way much better than completely just
Saying no.
banning. Yeah, like it's
Yeah,
like the more you say no to someone,
that is so true.
the more they're just gonna try it, right?
Yeah.
I know that's me.
Yeah.
Like the more you tell me, like, oh, it's so disgusting, don't do it. I'm like, oh, now I'm interested.
Exactly.
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 Back in a
And
taste.
I like to joke around that we Americans, right? We don't like to
Mhm.
be told what to do.
It's individualistic. Like that could tie into culture too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Asian American, the conflict between immigrant ideas and then
And
being here.
Yes. Yes. So when the harm reduction, there's additional more principles or more core belief is that one is how can we remove stigma
Yes.
Mm.
around substances, kind of going along the line of mental health,
Mhm.
Mhm,
right?
that too.
So again, using sex as an example, due to maybe religious reasonly, due to different trauma reason, whatever, certain people say no sex.
Hmm.
But come on, we know that something with substances
Mhm.
that
Hmm.
people are going to have sex, people are going to drink or use different type of
Yeah.
drugs.
Mhm.
So how can we again back to I keep repeating this question or asking myself kind of rhetorical question is
Hmm.
how can we keep our underage students, college students, high school students safe,
Mhm.
right? Instead of going this abstinence. Again, I'm not against abstinence. There's certain populations, certain people, this is the best way for them.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of other underage folks or adults. Abstinence just don't work. Just
Yeah.
do not
Hmm.
work. So so one is how can we remove the stigma of
Hmm.
abstinence, right? That's one. Second is that how can we introduce folks on healthier drinking,
Mhm.
healthier party, right? A simple example
Hmm.
is that we know college students go and drink.
Mhm.
Yes.
So how can we teach them go out party safer? Like maybe instill this idea that hey, if you know that you're going to party hard that night,
Mhm.
maybe eat a big plate of pasta,
Mm.
right?
Not empty stomach.
Not
Yeah,
empty
not empty
stomach,
stomach. Yeah.
right? And we know that you're going to drink, but okay, in between drinks,
Time it out.
time it out. Chug down a pint of water,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's another thing.
Mhm.
A third one is never, especially girls,
Hmm.
right? Never ever take a drink.
From a stranger.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right. And do we really talk about this? I think maybe the counseling center, maybe some student organization might talk, but as a campus or
Mhm.
as a culture,
It's not taught.
it's not
Actually,
taught.
we've
Yeah.
done so many like online modules from UCLA,
It's
but
so boring.
I don't yeah, it's more first that yeah, but second of all, there wasn't any one like a module on substance abuse. I only remember there was modules on like
Sexual
sexual
harassment.
harassment.
Yeah.
Yeah, sexual harassment and then like LGBTQ
I think for
stuff,
substance abuse, they might be.
but I don't
I
really
know what you're talking about. It's like a
like it's not talked about. Yeah,
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 but so just for info, it's like a requirement thing that every UCLA student will get an
has to
email.
do. Yeah.
Mhm.
You have to finish this training,
Mhm.
but that training is online. You click like you play the videos, you click through it, and
Yeah, it's
it
not that effective.
yeah, I would sometimes pay attention to stories like you can't skip the videos, but like again, it's not actually so encouraged that's talked about like, like
Yeah.
that's like every student knows all these tips and tricks that you
Mhm.
mentioned. It's kind of like like an under table conversation
Yeah.
instead of like, a broad education, like where the professors would remind you, like,
Yes.
oh, we have this workshop that's available. No, we don't really see that on campus. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is really interesting. And I think
Yes.
I agree, like I can understand why, like it's like everybody's different, right? So treatment, whether it's for mental health or for these type of approach, it's not one size fit all,
Yes.
right? So this is like kind of I could see that's the purpose, like it's not one size fit all. So that's why we're doing this, right? That's why we're
Yes.
doing harm reduction, to teach them all the different types of methods that you could use that
Mhm.
suits for you.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And then let's go a little bit deeper. Let's connect this with mental health,
Mm-hmm.
right? We know that one of the reasons people drink will draw to substance usage is what we call self-medication, right? You might be having horrible week,
Yeah.
be stressed out,
Yeah.
right? Or the third part is trauma reason, right? Maybe when you were younger, something happened and you the trauma is unaddressed.
Mm.
Therefore, this trauma, this fear, this pain, maybe it can be very subtle or can be very big, just been dwelling inside you for years.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
people, or even college students, can still feel that pain,
Yeah.
right? And on top of that, you have academic pressure, you have
Mm.
finals, midterm papers. On top of that, some of the students, well, a lot of students have to work,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? And the economy is
It's not
Yeah.
not helping. And with climate change
Oh.
and graduation, have to find a job, and some of them might have student
so
loans.
many stressors. It's just
Well, yes, exactly. So just imagine compounding all these. It's natural for students, underage people, want to drink, want to
escape.
escape, right? And again, I want to emphasize that there's nothing like in Hurley to escape, to want to go party, have fun. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Have fun, party is part of our lives, right? Go
Yeah.
have fun, enjoy your call. And I want to emphasize. I know I'm derailing a little bit. If you're listening to this, you are in college, have fun, enjoy your life because college life can be so much fun, right?
Sure.
So yes, study hard, work hard, but please remember party hard, right? But anyway, going back to these stressors,
Mhm.
right? So without community support,
Hmm.
right? Maybe some students don't have family support.
Yeah.
They feel lonely. They feel isolated. They feel hopeless or helpless.
Mhm.
And guess what? They naturally turn to substance to help them to feel better. And this is very normal. Right. So again, as a society, as a campus, as a student organization, as a friend or classmates, something for a part of harm reduction is to think about, okay, how can we students help each other out?
Mm.
Right. So of course,
Totally.
loneliness, that's one of the risk factors for drinking, right? And that's self-medication to numb the pain
Mm.
Yeah.
and isolation. So again, this is again the approach of harm reduction. It's that instead of telling them don't drink, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's check out, let's understand the signs and symptoms. Let's address these needs
Hmm.
of students, right? And once we start addressing these needs, maybe that craving for drinking might not be as strong or high.
Yeah. So like even if it's available, the students might not even have that intrinsic motivation to want to access it
That's yeah.
anymore.
Yes,
Address the cause. Yeah.
exactly,
Like the
exactly.
root cause.
Yes.
That's that's very interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then connected back to our cultures, right? Asian American culture. Of course, our culture, I'm using plural this time, cultures,
Hmm.
right? There's East Asians, Southeast Asian,
Yeah.
South Asian,
Yeah,
even within
totally.
East, Southeast, and South.
Everywhere's
So many.
different.
So many
Yeah.
areas, yeah. But overall, there's certain things are true within our cultures. Well, not when I say true, mean that they're kind of consistent, right?
Common.
meaning that one is the obvious one that majority of us, almost all of us, do experience or face some sort of external racism.
Yeah, like in America,
Yeah, in this
Yes.
country.
in this country.
And so I'm talking about Asian American cultures, right?
Mm.
Hmm.
That's one. And second is that there's this internal pressure that we need to succeed.
Yeah.
The model
Model
Minor
minority myth.
minority, yes. So that's one component. And second component is I always connect back to our immigrant background and heritage.
Mm,
So study has shown that two-thirds of Asian American in this country are either immigrants themselves
Mhm.
or they have a close friend or family member that's immigrant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So with that immigrant mentality, meaning that I often associate this as survival.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Right.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about like these like multi-millionaire wealthy Asian people who do this kind
No.
of. We're talking about average.
Crazy rich
Yeah.
Asian.
I'm talking about crazy rich Asian type. I'm talking about average Asian American,
Yes.
right? So coming to this country, our parents, whether you're yourself is immigrant, your parents is immigrant, so this inherent pressure for us to survive, to succeed,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
Like first gen.
First
Yeah.
gen, yeah.
To college.
Yeah, we're second generation. So going back to the stress I was talking about, there's this additional stressor that we Asian American do experience and face
Hmm.
that are unique to us. Again, I'm not saying that other demographic population don't have these additional stressors. No, I think we all have different stressors, but these are specific kind of uh
Specific to
to
Asian Americans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
exactly
Mhm.
right.
Like immigrant families, especially.
Yes. So what I'm seeing too, if also based on my personal my experience and working with different college students or campuses, I noticed that due to model minority male, due to academic stress, with family pressure,
Mhm.
they have to be almost pitch perfect,
Yeah.
right? They have to put out a facade.
Hmm.
Mm.
But the moment that Friday night, that midnight hits, they just kind of like let go and they don't know how to control or manage their impulses.
Mm.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. And because they have been suppressing their emotions and feel,
Repression.
yeah, repression. So going back to mental health,
Mm.
because why? They cannot show their weaknesses. They have to
Oh
be
yeah.
Exactly.
perfect,
Yeah.
right? Because again, due to this immigration pressure, and also this our culture,
Collectivist
yeah, correct,
culture.
yes, right. If I'm show my weakness, then I'm ashamed,
Mhm.
right? With my
Bringing shame to my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
like I can't fail. Like for me, I came from Taiwan just for my education as well.
uh-huh,
So it's completely true to everything that you're just saying.
yes,
Like my grandma immigrated here and I see that in her, the survival mode in her.
yes.
She's a single mother. She had to bring up, raise three daughters. And then all that survival mode coming to America thinking that you have a better future or just, any of the reasons. And then like, me as a first generation college student too, like not being able to, like not showing you don't talk about these struggles with your family, right?
No.
You have to suck it up. Like we were talking
Oh
about
yeah.
just yesterday.
Yeah.
We're making these bracelets like you just gotta suck it up.
Yeah.
We're taught to just endure.
Endure. Pain is good.
Yeah, like, oh, you're just
Yeah.
whining, right?
Yeah.
So just common theme in our culture is just sometimes the balance teeters off and then it kind of just consumes you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And what I really want to emphasize is our emotional health.
Mm.
exactly.
Emotional health. And I like to use this
Mm.
term presenteeism. And I'm not quite sure if I'm using this term correctly, but
Hmm.
from what I understand is that, like for some our culture, our cultures
Hmm.
really emphasize on family, right? Which is a
Yeah,
beautiful thing. Family gathering, family meals, holidays,
Yeah.
celebration, beautiful. Let's do more. But that being said, that the reason I'm using this word presenteeism is that this emphasis of family gathering, family spending time together,
Mhm.
right? We are physically together.
we're not emotionally
Oh
connected.
yeah.
Exactly,
That's
not
so true.
emotionally connected.
That's so
Right. So for example, a young Asian American boy or girl just cannot take the stress anymore, whether it's through bullying
Oh
or
my
expectation, and wanted to hopefully can talk to some family member, parents, but the parents themselves, again, I don't blame them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not blaming
yeah,
any of it.
they are in that survival mode. That
Mm.
they themselves don't know how to address
Yeah. Hmm.
or
They
talk.
also don't have that
Yeah, they
skill.
don't have that skill to talk these emotion with their children.
Hmm.
This is so funny because I see so many parallel from the another project we did
Oh yeah.
last quarter.
Also from
From
the
your
one
pro
I did with Ethan.
Yeah, this
Same
is
things.
yeah, before like bring you we
Yeah.
invited you,
Uh-huh.
we did separate projects talking
Also
literally
podcasts.
the
Yeah.
same thing. We're talking about
Nice.
the same thing,
Yeah.
just like the collectivist culture. Like we're not blaming our family because they had to, that's what they knew. That's all they
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then now we're here, blessed with like the opportunities in America, knowing
Yes.
all these. Now we have that additional responsibility to
Yes.
kind of break that cycle, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So common. We like one thing you just say one thing and then we're like we can finish the rest of the sentence.
Exactly. That's awesome. That is awesome. So going back to this emotional health, right? And going back to the earlier, the word that I use, impulse.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So unfortunately, like fortunately, yes, a lot of Asian American, our family focus on academic, on book smart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which don't get me, that can get you very far in the future, academically, career wise.
Yes.
One thing I definitely see missing is this emotional health.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
For
what
some
that
reason.
yeah, so what that means is a lot of I'm not talking just not just Asian American, just overall people,
Yeah.
right? That especially as men,
Hmm.
as dudes, we were
Yeah.
not taught to manage, to understand our feelings,
Yes.
emotions. So tying back to harm reduction is that, do you remember the example I used earlier? That midnight Friday hit
Hmm.
Yeah.
when these students go out to party, which they deserve a rest, go out have fun. But you obviously they could, and we've seen it. They go overboard when it comes to substance usage because they don't know how to manage or control their
Hmm.
impulses. And oftentimes when these happens, guess what? Their health risk, emotional risk for their mental health, physical health, mental
Increases.
just increases tremendously.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why when it comes to harm reduction is so important for us. Again, harm reduction, we are not excluding abstinence.
Hmm.
We're including everything, wide spectrum. And the spectrum that within the spectrum that I'm really focusing on is, especially within our people, our students, is how can really tap into this emotional health.
Yeah.
Right? You use the word understand the causes.
Hmm.
That is so important, right? How can we have these dialogue, build these trust and relationship, have these safe and courageous space, courageous, the keyword is courageous space that
Hmm.
student can come and just vent
Hmm.
without fear or
A
repercussion,
safe
right?
space.
Psychological safe space, right? So when we can provide these spaces for students, underage students, to talk about these issues, will address this
Yeah.
loneliness, isolation, stress,
Hmm.
right? Understand their emotions, help them just by talking about it, they can understand, identify, and slowly managing them.
Yeah.
All these long term wise, indirectly, can help these students understanding how to use substances
It some maybe lowers the risk too
and
to even go
potential
to take those measures.
exactly potentially lower intakes of substances
Hmm.
and maybe ideally
To none.
even to none,
So now,
Ideally,
right?
yes.
Ideally to none. So in a nutshell, this is what I see the correlation between harm reduction and our students.
Hmm.
So
yeah, so what you were just describing, it's what your organization does, right? Like the
yes,
community aspect and like
yes,
people gathering and like talking about their own feelings in a safe space,
yes,
which they would things that they wouldn't be able to talk about in a normal situation.
yes.
That kind of reminds me of also there's another organization called Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes,
It's for like alcohol specifically,
AAs.
but yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's yeah, so like things like that.
yes.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think UCLA has anything like this.
So,
Yeah.
so to clear up, just on Google Maps, type in
Mm-hmm.
AA,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be surprised how many AAs are there.
I searched it up once.
And there's none
Oh,
on campus?
I not here when I was back at home because I was in therapy and then they were talking about like just like resources or whatever and I just it
Yeah.
was fun and there's a lot like a
Yes.
lot of them are church affiliated,
yeah.
the
Yes.
ones that I
Yeah.
found, but there is a lot, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. So Ajit. So to cut you off earlier. So in fact, I don't know if what UCLA has
Mm-hmm.
provide, but as my assumption, without even googling, based on my experience, once you step outside the campus,
Mm-hmm.
I bet you there
Around
are
it.
Yeah. Sure, sure. Yeah, totally around.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about safe space is honestly like aside from turning into AAs like those more professional organizations, what we're doing as a club cultivation is
Oh, yeah.
literally what
It is
we're doing,
already.
right? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, this is exactly the purpose of our club
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
is to create this community for students to bond and to talk about things
Yeah.
that we can't talk about with their families.
Yeah.
So prevent them, like a sense of community with a sense of community, like you said,
Mhm.
lack you don't feel isolated and
Yes.
then with these people like we see people make their own friend groups connect
Yes.
with each other hang out right
Yes.
and then while they're hanging out at Meat Fresh for example they're they're not going out to party and drink and to take
Yeah.
drugs so honestly yeah, if we could expand as a club a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more, that's which is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And inviting you here is kind of
Awesome.
as our exposure too. So yeah, like that's definitely our goal. Like
That's awesome.
as Asian American students who I study psychology, so this is my
Yeah.
passion. But at the same time, this is what a lot of our young generations are aware of now.
Yeah.
So I think this is definitely a very important idea that's worth spreading,
Mhm.
like harm reduction and then all this importance that we talked about. I also just want to highlight something as like there's so many layers, right?
Yes.
We talk about harm reduction is not just substance abuse. There's mental health elements in it.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
gender differences,
Gender.
talking
Yeah.
about emotions. There's so much intersectionality within just one
Yes.
issue,
Yeah.
and it's so hard to just pinpoint one.
Yes.
So like now that we're talking like unpacking all of it, we're also seeing just how important this issue is and how complex it could
Yes.
be.
It can be. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think to kind of wrap this up is that you use a really important word, is that the word community,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? And community, because for people it has different meanings, but ultimately
Mm-hmm.
it is that support.
Yeah. A
Yeah.
social emotional
Yeah. Oh,
support.
Yeah, that's
also, I
social.
want to point out one thing.
Yes.
The other day we were doing a presentation. We were
Uh-huh.
talking about community in English, but we had to translate it to
Uh-huh.
Chinese. And in the presentation, we were actually talking about the cultural differences between languages.
Yeah.
Um, for example, the word community cannot be translated
Directly
directly to
Yeah.
a word in Chinese with the same connotation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's also mental health. Mental health is also like very different in different languages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about language barrier. So we have this English version and Chinese version. We were talking about vulnerability
Mhm.
and community and mental health, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then when we're translating it to Chinese, we're stuck.
Yeah.
Like vulnerability in Chinese is just like there's this weakness connotation to it when you translate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
community, it doesn't have the same positive effect
It
that
just sounds
unify.
neutral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. In Chinese, it just sounds like 社区 or
Yeah.
社群.
Yes,
But
yeah.
in English, we use it so often, like, oh, find your community. Like,
Yeah,
it
it's
brings
like
that
happy
feeling. Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feel that wholesome. But in Chinese, it's hard to use the same equivalent to that word.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's so ingrained, like in just like the language culture differences that creates this gap. So there's so much work that we need to do.
Exactly. And this is awesome. And one last thing before I forget, I want to emphasize, I want to share this about when it comes to harm reduction, is that there's this more emphasis, the celebration of not drinking, right? Going back to this macho-ness culture, right? That main culture, or even the drinking culture in the
Asia's
States.
drinking
Oh.
culture is so bad.
It's so bad, right?
bad.
So if you don't drink, what? People gonna make fun of you,
Like
right?
it's such a big part of
I think it's even
socializing.
worse.
Socialization,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's work.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Work dinners.
And then even in the States are better, right? But there's peer pressure
Yeah.
for you to drink, right? So what I've been doing last 10 years is that when whether in some sort of social setting, networking with my friends,
Uh-huh.
whenever someone say, let's get a shot,
Hmm.
right? Round a shot, for example.
Mhm.
And someone would say, oh, no, I'm good. I don't drink.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
All right. Naturally, some guy in the group is like, boo,
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
party
Oh,
pooper,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like kind of shaming. So what I've been trying to set an example is when that happened, I'll look at that person and say, good for you. And when
Wow.
the other person try to bully that person, say you
Hey,
are
no.
rude, and I will divert that, right? Because and talking about building that communication,
Community.
community and communication.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's like, how can we reverse this?
Mm.
Right. So again, harm reduction is ultimately the keyword is balance
Yes.
to the point that ideally, if a person says, you know what, I feel like drinking. Okay, I just going to have one or two drinks. That's it. And I
Hmm.
don't want to drink.
Mhm.
Right. There's this balance. And for us to reach this balance, we need to tackle this toxic, unhealthy drinking
Yeah.
culture
Mm.
and celebrate and honor.
The people that choose to not drink.
Exactly.
Mm.
How can we support them? Right. How can we like, good for you,
Well,
man.
Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. So if that happens like in real life, how would you divert it? Like, would you just straight up call the people out like, hey, actually that's kind of rude or that's harmful, that's respect their choice? Like,
Yes.
what is some common tips that, for
Yeah.
instance, we could also,
Mhm.
take example too when that happens with our
Yes.
groups?
Great question. So in college setting, of course, it's going to be harder, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many, like, especially during party, like people
Yeah,
yelling.
totally.
Yeah.
So let's just say that, well, let's use a simple example during a dinner time,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's people ordering beer, drinks, and stuff like that. So my number one recommendation is that when that person says, no, I'm not going to drink this weekend,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Well, this week. And this person start quote unquote bullying that person or making fun of that
Mhm.
person. First step is focus on that person.
The person
They're
that's not
not
drinking.
drinking.
Okay.
Right. You don't have to rebuttal this person at that moment because the more you try to rebuttal this person, you're adding fuel.
Yeah.
This person
That's a
might
good
become
point.
more
True.
defensive and become,
The
but
person
in,
might be drunk.
yeah. What you try to do is, so this voice really, really loud. This voice, the person not drinking, is very small.
So you're trying to amplify this part.
Yes, but the more you amplify this voice, this toxic voice become quieter. The energy shifts. So one of the easiest thing is, especially in a group setting, especially if there's another friend that's on the same page with you, don't give this person the
Any attention.
attention. Give this person attention by saying positive words, by saying, good for you, man. And maybe you can say that, okay, yeah, this is my last drink. Right? Well, I'm not drinking too.
That's such a good
Yeah.
point. I've never
Wow.
thought about it in this
That is
way.
very powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because all we think about is like the problem is that, so we
Mm.
should try to solve that. But instead, there's another way, alternative way for us to support this person,
Yes.
like not necessarily taking action on telling them to stop, but
Yeah.
just supporting them, and then that could like create that empowerment, and that,
Exactly.
that's I've never heard of that way
Yeah, I've
before.
never heard of that as well.
That was
Oh, thank,
mind blowing. Mind
thank
blowing
you.
for
Thank
sure.
you. Yeah. So yeah, so that is one of the tools action that I highly recommend.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's such a I'm learning so many things in
Oh,
just one in one
And
sitting.
I assume you also like do like the workshops you do, you basically talk about these same concepts
yes,
to
I
college
do.
students.
Yes, and I have different depends if it's a virtual workshop, I have different scenarios for us to
Uh,
practice. And I do have a set of tools
Hmm.
or action that we can use to support each other when it comes to harm
mhm,
reduction.
Hmm.
So
mhm.
Is
yeah.
there like a source, a link or website that I could
Yeah,
link to the video or like share it
I was
to our
wondering if there
members?
is an online
Yeah.
resource.
Not out of my head right now.
Okay. You
But
Okay.
can
that being
definitely
said,
email
yeah,
it to
I
me
will
later when you
email to you.
figure out.
And then like definitely SEMSA, like a lot of my research, my
Hmm.
information, I get it directly from SEMSA because they
Mm.
do have a lot of evidence-based data
Yeah.
and
Ooh,
studies. So
evidence-based.
So yeah, so that is a
Hmm.
great website.
Okay, we'll definitely look into
Resource.
it,
Yeah.
plug that in, and then we'll share it to our members as well.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there any final note that you would like to share to like whether, our audiences or to just the two of us as
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes, I think my final thought, I'm just repeating myself a little bit, is that this ideal harm reduction is about abstinence, but also about learning how to balance your life,
Mhm.
right? So a lot of people, again, that there's the mentality us versus them type mentality, because the moment you start talking about harm reduction, people would think that, oh, you just want underage people to drink. No, this is not.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so extreme,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So harm
That's
reduction, in fact,
that is the
is
mentality.
trying to remove this extremism
Hmm.
Trying to find
and try to find that balance, right?
Hmm.
So certain people at their recovery phase, sometimes they need to be abstinent for a few months.
Hmm.
yeah, for them it might work for a while.
Yes, for them it might work, or abstinence for years. But for
Mhm.
certain people, that's not quite the
Everybody's
solution.
different.
Everybody's different. And also, when going back to what we were talking about, understanding the causes, right?
Hmm.
Supporting each other, having a venue, a place for people to talk about their emotional health.
Hmm.
Because once, especially younger people, have that outlet,
Yes.
the impulses, the urge to self-medicate, to feel better, can be replaced with just these healthy relationships.
And it's just it happens organically too.
Yes,
Like it's not actually telling them to change something, but naturally, if we could just introduce more positive like health behaviors,
yes,
then that would be naturally just helping them decrease that behavior, the negative
exactly,
behaviors as well.
exactly, yes.
Yeah, we have
Wow.
learned so much about harm reduction today.
Awesome.
But yeah, I think that's all for harm reduction section.
Okay.
So we're gonna just make a little cut. But thank you so much.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
to
Yeah, thank you so
wrap up this
much.
video, yes, thank you so much for giving us the talk.